Okay, if we're going to do some percents, how I had these in middle school, but we're going to do it a little bit different way. It says, what percent of 42 is 28? You're actually going to use a proportion here to solve this. Now remember, proportions two equal ratios because a percent is a ratio. So here's my percent ratio. Now even though it's not in the problem, you're going to put 100%. Over on this side, you're going to put part over total every time today. Now, to solve a problem like this, your total is found by looking after the word of. Okay, put of. Now, do you have a percent in this problem? No, that's not. That would have a percent sign, and that's not. That doesn't. So X is the percent. Now find your total. Okay. Look at, circle the word of and look after it. There's 42. So 42 is my total, and that means 28 is my part. Now I can cross multiply and divide. X is diagonal from 42, so I take 100 times 28 and divide by 42. Now you got a decimal, that's fine. You just put 66.6 repeating percent. Okay. Next one, really is pretty easy, okay, I think. Maybe you might not, and that's fine. Not easy for everybody sometimes, okay? And then you put part over total, and the total is after the word of when doing these problems, okay? 75 is the percent, so I have my percent. After the word of, I see 180. That's my total. X is the part then. So X is diagonal from 100, so you cross multiply. You take 75 times 180, divide by 100. That's 135. You don't put a percent on that because you have all your percents. Okay, 60% of what number is 75? 100%. This is my percent ratio. And this is my part over total ratio. The total is after the word of. So the percent is 60. But after the word of, I see the word what. So that means that X is my total. And 75 is the part. So I take 100 times 75. And then divide by 60. 125. There you go. Okay, what percent of 15 is 21? So I go percent, 100%, then is, part and total. Okay, total is the of. So first you look for your percent, but you don't have it because it says what percent. So X is the unknown, that's your percent. After the word of, I see 15. 21 goes here. You can't follow those rules where you just put the smaller number on top every time. You can't do that. You have to look after the word of, you see 15. 15 is a total. So I take 100 times 21 divided by 15. 140. Now, you get a percent higher than 100, which makes sense, because if you get 21 out of 15 on a test, that's higher than 100, so 140 makes sense. Okay, 68% of what number is 64.6? So you got percent over 100%, 68 your percent, and the part over your total. Okay, and the total is after the word of. Okay, after the word of, it says the word what. That means X is the total. You don't know the total, you're finding it. 64.6 is the part. So I cross multiply and divide. 100 times 64.6 divided by 68, I got 95. So 95 is the total. Okay, what is 125% of 62? 125 is the percent, and then part over total. put the word of next to your total. That is how you find what you're going to put for your total. After of, it says 62. So you're finding the part of that. So 125 times 62 divided by 100, I got 77.5. That's the part. 65% of what number is 577.2? So 100%, you have a percent there, 65, and then over here the ratio is part over total. The part that the 65% represents, and then the total altogether. Total is the word of. After word of, it says what, the word what. So that's X, 577.2. Cross multiply and divide. We'll multiply 100 divided by 65. 888. There's your total. Okay, what percent of 120 is 200? Percent I don't have, so it says what percent. Then part over total. The total's not always the higher number, though. When you get extra credit on a test, the part's higher than the total. To find the total, you got to look after the word of, 120. Then 200 is the part. So I take 100 times 200 and then divide by 120. 166.6 repeating percent. Okay. Okay, what percent of 48 is 18? What percent? You don't have the percent. Part total. Remember, in these problems, the total is found simply by looking after the word of. After of, you got 48. That's your total. 18. This isn't going to be a very high percent because 18 out of 48 is pretty crappy on a test. You take 100 times 18 divided by 48, 37.5%. Not a very good percent. Okay, 15% of what number is 6.75? You should be getting the hang of this, I would hope, by now. So you got 15, then part total. Remember, the total is defined after the word of. After of, it says the phrase what. So X, 6.75. Cross multiply and divide. 45. Because 15% isn't very good, so there must have been quite a few points on this test that you didn't get very many right. Okay, what is 2.75% of 20? Now, the nice thing about this, you don't have to mess around with moving the decimal and that stuff, the stuff that we have to do with percents all the time. Now, you're going to have to do that in a story problem on next week, but not today. Part total. After the word of, it says 20. Then X is the part. So I take 2.75 times 20 divided by 100. I got 0.55. That is a correct answer. 2.75% is not very high, so I could expect a small answer. Notice I'm using 100% on every problem. So you got 16.5 as your percent, then part total. Totals of. After of, it says 33. That means I have to figure out the part of 33 that accounts for 16.5%. 5.445. If you get a never-ending decimal that doesn't repeat, just put it out 3 places. That's good. Okay, now pause the video and do the 8 problems, and then rejoin me. Okay, now you're going to apply to what you just learned to some real-life scenarios here. Okay, it says 10% of my paycheck is spent on groceries. If I spend $300 of my paycheck on groceries, how much money is in my paycheck? Okay, so you're going to formulate what you just did. You're going to put 100%, and your percent's always given to you in the problem, 10%. And you're going to go part total, but that of thing ain't going to work, okay? Instead of putting of next to total, you're going to go up next to the part and put what the 10% is defined by. I've circled it for you. It's called your percent trait. The part is what was spent on groceries. Just put spent on groceries. Again, if you're too lazy to write that, I'm sorry, but that's kind of how you're going to know what we put where. So that of does not work on an actual word problem rather than the ones you just did, okay? All right, now I'm going to reread this, and you tell me if that $300 was spent on groceries. If it was, I put it here. If it wasn't, I put it there. 10% of my paycheck is spent on groceries. I spent $300 of my paycheck on groceries. How much money is in my paycheck? Find out says it was spent on groceries, so it goes here. That's your part. And you're trying to find how much money's in your paycheck, so you're finding the total. So I cross multiply and divide, because I have to have more in my paycheck than what I'm spending on groceries. So 100 times 300 divided by 10 is 3,000. Put $3,000. The label is the same as this number here. Okay. Okay, next problem. 20% of the land in the United States is covered by mountains. If there are 200,000 square miles in the United States, how much of that is covered by mountains? Percent is 20. And then you have part and total. Now, instead of that of stuff, you can't rely on that. You have to define your part by what the percent is. It says 20% of land in the U.S. is covered by mountains. That's what defines the percent. So the part is how much was covered by mountains. Now I'm going to read that problem. You tell me, reread it. You tell me if 200,000 square miles was covered by mountains. 20% of the land in the United States is covered by mountains. If there are 200,000 square miles in the United States, how much is covered by mountains? No, the 200,000 square miles was not covered by mountains. So that is my total. The question asks me how much is covered by mountains, so that means the part is the X. So I take 20 times 200,000 divided by 100, 40,000. And put square miles, should have the same label as the other number, square SQ miles. Boom. Okay, 45% of the trolls in the Magic Forest had happy faces. If 200 trolls had happy faces, how many trolls were there altogether? So again, your percent, you got 45%. Then part total. Okay, now, what defines my percent? Well, it's how many had happy faces. Okay, so the part is defined by had happy faces. Now I'm going to reread the problem. You tell me if the 200 trolls had happy faces. 45% of the trolls in the Magic Forest had happy faces. If 200 trolls had happy faces, how many trolls were there altogether? So 200 is how many they said they had happy faces, so that goes here, and I have to find the total. So I take 100 times 200, divide by 45, just put 444, okay? When doing these, don't put the decimal. 444 trolls. Okay, I can bench press 200% of my body weight. If I can bench press 500 pounds, what is my body weight? Okay, so I put 100%, and yes, you're going to put 200% there. So the part here is going to be bigger than the total. Now your part, it says bench press. Now I'm going to reread the problem. You tell me if that 500 pounds is my bench press. I can bench press 200% of my body weight. If I can bench press 500 pounds, what is my body weight? Yeah, it says I can bench press 500 pounds, so that's the part. And I'm trying to figure out my total, my body weight. So I take 100 times 500 and divide by 200. 250 pounds. So I weigh 250 pounds. Remember, if I can bench press 200%, that's double that. Okay, so that we go. Okay, last two. 40% of the students in school dressed up for Spirit Day. If 120 dressed up for Spirit Day, how many students are in school? The percent is given, 40. And then part over total. Again, that of is not going to help you. Instead, take what I circled, and that's the part, okay? That's the part that makes this group special. The fact that they dressed up for Spirit Day. Now, if that 120 represents how many dressed up for Spirit Day, it goes here. If not, it's the total. So let's read it. 40% of the students in school dressed up for Spirit Day. If 120 dressed up for Spirit Day, how many students are in school? It says they dressed up for Spirit Day. So it's got to go here. It's my part. And I'm trying to find how many students are in the school. Well, that's my total, X. So I cross multiply and divide. 100 times 120 divided by 40, 300. So you have 300 students in the school. That answer makes sense. Getting an answer like 50 makes no sense. How can I have 50 students in school and 120 of them dress up for Spirit Day? No, there's not even that many. Okay, last one. 60% of the roads need to be reconstructed. If there are 300 roads, how many need to be reconstructed? Okay, percent, 100%. And I put 60. Okay, part over total. But again, you can't rely on of. That's not going to work. Okay. Instead, label your part. Part. The part is defined at how many need to be reconstructed. So need to be reconstructed. Now, 300 roads. Did they need to be reconstructed? Let's reread it. 60% of the roads need to be reconstructed. If there are 300 roads, how many need to be reconstructed? 300 roads don't need to be reconstructed. That's how many there are. So it's my total. It's not the part that need to be reconstructed. How many need to be reconstructed means I need to figure that out. So X. Now I take 60 times 300, divide by 100. 180 roads need to be reconstructed. You can just put road zone. All right, that's what I have to say on that. I hope it has been informative, and ask me if you need any help.